Welcome to Fired Up. I am your host, Tammy Shike. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope that the topics we discuss can make you fired up. Today I will be speaking with Audrey. Audrey, tell me a little about yourself.
All right, my name is Audrey Taylor. I am 20 years old. I go to Indiana State. I'm a kinesiology major with a minor in massage therapy, and I run one of the largest organizations on the campus called The Forest.
And what is your position with the Forest?
I am currently the acting president.
Congratulations. Very cool. Okay, so what would you like to talk about today?
I've been toying with the idea about what I wanted to talk about, and kind of everything leads into another. So starting with like my abandonment issues
Okay.
that goes into my trust issues, which then goes into my mental health.
Okay. And so talk about the abandonment first.
Okay.
So where does that come from, and how does that, like, where did it come from? Do you know where it came from? When did you first feel it?
It started coming when I was little. When I was like 3 or 4 years old, my sister committed suicide.
Okay.
And so that was like the first moment of like, oh, I don't have 3 sisters anymore. I only have 2. And it made the whole family dynamic weird because she was prevalent in my life. And then throughout, more and more people started passing away, and it just made me feel very abandoned. And it was a rough time.
So so abandonment, so kind of your first introduction to what death is, right?
Mhm.
And so I can't tell you, I didn't know 3-year-old Audrey, but children tend to think in terms of, like, they tend to be in short term. So, like, if it's a week from Christmas, that's a really long way away from me.
Mhm.
But, like, learning that over time, that sister didn't come back.
Yeah.
Talk about how that felt. Like, how did that awareness impact you as you got older, right? I mean, because I would think the impact at 3 would have been different than the impact at 7, which had been like, talk
Mhm.
about that transition.
Yeah. Um Having 2 sisters, they lived with their mom and 2 additional sisters. And when I was like 5 or 6, things were still weird cuz we didn't talk about her. We still don't. And getting older, I get asked, "Oh, how many sisters do you have?" Or, "Oh, you have 3 sisters? Why do you only talk about 2?" And so it's hard to talk about
Sure.
because I don't really know. I don't know the full story. And my parents and my grandparents and my sisters don't even know the full story.
Sure.
And so it's been rough. And then it just keeps getting rougher and rougher as I'm getting older. Would have been 15, 16 years since she died.
Okay.
And when her death date comes around, it is very hard on my family.
Sure.
We don't really leave the house. We kind of just stay together, watch movies, play some games, and
Sure.
just try to get through the day.
So so talk about something you said stands out to me. We just didn't talk about it. So um if that's the way you've grown up, and again, I'm not
Mhm.
finding fault, I'm asking questions.
Mhm.
So if that's the way you grew up, and then someone says to you, as you just mentioned, okay, we have 3 sisters, but you only talk about 2. So tell me how you've dealt with that.
It's kind of like I was going through the motions.
Okay.
I would be like, "Yeah, unfortunately, when I was little, one of them passed away." And
Okay.
they left it at that.
Sure.
I'd have some people press a little harder, and I'm like, "Well, she died. She decided to end her life." And then they are like, "Okay, we're going to stop talking now."
So, and that's interesting to me as well. So you got, I'm asking in the form of a
Mhm.
question, you got pushed a little bit.
Mhm.
And then when they stopped talking, did it almost feel like then they were uncomfortable and so they stopped talking to you? Is that the way it felt to you? Talk about that whole scenario. Like, how did
Mhm.
that feel to you? Because when they stopped talking, was that as awkward as it was when they were asking the question?
Oh, 100%. Um, they would have like those big bug eyes, like, "Oh, we pressed a little too hard." maybe we need to back up and leave her alone.
So so talk about, so here you are, this beautiful adult kicking the world's bottom in so many ways. So tell me how much a part of you this is. Is it something that's, um, becomes a part of your world only when something comes up? Is it something you feel more than that?
It's always been a part of me.
Sure.
Last year I decided, it was a month after she died, I decided to get a tattoo in honor of her. And it's on my right back shoulder, and it's the P for her initial with two little angel wings. Knowing that she always has my back. Um, and it's part of my everyday life. I have a niece and two nephews, and my niece looks exactly like her. Exactly like her.
Oh, my stars.
So I see her every day. I feel her presence every day. Yes, I was only 3 at the time, but, like, she's just as much as part of me as she is that little 5-year-old.
Oh, I love that for you, and I love that
Mhm,
you've intentionally made her a part of your life. So I
mhm,
think, my father once said, You never lose someone as long as you keep them in your heart." And so what that says to me is that she's very much a part of you. So
mhm,
my opinion that doesn't mean anything is how lovely that is. Now, but that has to impact those abandonment issues. So you've made her a part of your life. How lovely is that? But now let's talk about how that works with abandonment. So where does that manifest itself? Is that like in relationships? Is that like with meeting someone new? Talk about where that abandonment, how that abandonment works present day.
mhm. Um, yeah, obviously it started with her, and then I would get friends, and they would just leave me instantly. And I'm like, that just doesn't it helps build the
Of course it
abandonment.
does. Why was there a reason they left you immediately?
They didn't kind of like what I was about. They didn't, um, they wanted to do drugs and I didn't. And so that was a huge, like, yeah, we're not going to be friends with her.
Okay, so may I make a couple of
Hmm.
suggestions to you now? So I think I just had this conversation. So I think that as humans, we use the word friend as a generic term when maybe it's not a generic term. So what I mean by that is, and I'm not making fun at all, but maybe those people were acquaintances.
Hmm.
Maybe they weren't really your friends. And so if you could categorize them not as if I'm losing a friend, then I'm thinking somebody that is really deeply a part of my life. And for them to not want to be around you because you'd chosen a lovely path, my question is, can you reframe that in your head and look back on it not as being abandoned by friends and or thinking, "Okay, people that really weren't going to add to my life
Hmm.
are not in my life anymore." So it becomes a matter of, like, reframing it, thinking differently about it. Doesn't mean
Hmm.
you're not hurt because I'm sure when you invested in that friendship, you saw yourself, skipping, holding hands, going for pizza, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's but maybe they weren't in it for the same reasons? I don't know.
Hmm.
So when we think about that abandonment, maybe thinking of it as you learned a really tough lesson at a really young age, and
Hmm.
we can discuss all day long. Was that fair? No. But did you have anything to do with it? No. Could you have changed it? No. Like you had no part of that.
Hmm.
That was like watching a movie. You can't go into the screen and change the movie. So, but those lessons that you took from that, could we possibly be applying them in not the best way for you? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So, because I assume that that abandonment works into the next word you used was trust.
Hmm.
So I assume that thinking somebody's your friend and then them going peace out, like not only is that abandonment, but then like, okay, well now I'm not supposed to trust people. Is that how that felt?
Yeah.
So so those people so then I'm assuming, you can correct me, so I'm assuming that's like a middle school, high school kinda thing, that you
Mhm.
started learning those lessons. So then what happens when you get to college? Do you feel like that replicated itself?
Yeah. Um, I got told the other day, they were like, "Audrey, you have a really good group of friends." And I looked at her, I'm like, "From the lessons I've learned, I had to learn how to choose my friends very wisely and
Okay.
making sure like my circle, like I know I can trust them." And one of my closest guy friends, he's like, "Are you okay? Like, what do you need?" I'm like, I don't know. And he's always checking on me, like making sure I'm okay. And whatever I need, whether it be school, life, the forest, he's there. And so I have learned to start trusting people more and more.
Lovely. So that goes into my next question, which is, so kind of, being more discerning and kind of vetting people more carefully.
Hmm.
So that has that also helped the abandonment issue?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's get into the mental health aspect. So tell me how that is working now in your life, because the other two, it seems like you're just kind of a girl boss, and
Hmm.
you've figured out what has worked better for you, which,
Yeah.
like, putting yourself first and making yourself the best person that you can be is the best thing you can put out into the world, right?
Hmm.
So talk about the mental health aspect of it.
So my senior year of high school, it was rough. I ended up tearing my shoulder, so all sports were out the window. I was gonna go throw in college. That went out the window.
Sure.
Um, there was a moment at a basketball game where the opposing team started attacking me on Twitter, like talking about my weight, talking about how she's all bark and no bite, and just absolutely making fun of me. And that Monday, I went to school and everybody was looking at me, like whispering, like checking on me, making sure she's like, "Are you okay?" Obviously, I'm not okay. I'm
Obviously.
not.
Right.
And I went home and I tried to kill myself. And I remember it distinctly. Um, I would grab the knife out of the drawer and then my dog came in and she kind of cocked her head, like, "What are you doing?" And then it just dawned on me, like, what am I doing? Like this, I need to be seeking help and not trying to hurt myself. And I kept that a secret for a year. Did not tell anybody for an entire year. And I knew the date was coming up and I kind of like broke down. My roommate and she held me in the bathroom floor crying. And she called my mom. My mom came the next day and she's like, "Do you know what this weekend is?" I'm like, "No, what is this weekend?" And she's like, "It's the same weekend your sister died." So knowing that and that it was the same weekend I tried to is the reason why I got the tattoo where I got it. And she always has my back. And it was kind of like a sign from God that I'm here. Don't do this, don't do the same thing I did. And so throughout this whole year, because it year two, it was a lot better than the first year. And I learned more about myself. I learned that I can be confident and not like rely on people or um, just absolutely break down because I have those outlets now.
Sure.
So,
Well, didn't think I could love you more, but absolutely. So love you and respect you. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of the human you are. Let's talk about those days that we all have, those hard days.
mhm,
So whether it is an anniversary or whether it is just a hard day, talk about, in those hard moments. Are you putting yourself first? Talk about where you are with that today versus where you were with that a couple of years ago.
mhm. A couple years ago, I would hide in my room, not let anybody near me. Um, Now I recently have found God in my life again. And so I pray. I pray a lot, read the Bible. I go play with dogs all the time if I'm having a bad day. And then I eat cookie dough.
I endorse every one of those, starting with God and moving to cookie dough. I endorse every one of those. So do you find that those are good outlets for you?
Sometimes, yes.
And when it's not, when it doesn't completely take away the pain, how do you deal with that?
I ended up crying.
Okay. Well, sometimes crying can be
Yeah,
cathartic. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, let's talk a little bit about how hard are you on you?
very hard.
How did I know that? Okay. So give me an example.
Um, I'm currently doing a spreadsheet for the forest, and I wanted it to be done like a month ago. And I just kept pushing it off and off. And I'm like, it's not going to get done if I just don't sit down and do it. And that I'm like really hard on myself because it's tedious work. I have to make sure this person's in that category, that person's in that category, and move it all over. It's just tedious work, but I know I needed to get it done, and it just was not happening. And I'm also like really hard on myself about grades.
Okay.
Um, I currently have a 79.85 B minus in one of my classes. I'm not okay with that. And I've been trying to do everything in my possible power to get it back up, and I just can't seem to do it. And so I kind of kick myself for it.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So kick yourself for it. So was there a time in this class that you just sat back and did nothing?
No, because
Right.
it's a
Right.
very
No, no, no.
hands on
I
class.
knew the answer to that. So, but I need you to hear me. So, was there a time in that class where you just blew off the class? You didn't attend classes because sometimes that happens as a
Hmm.
college student. You didn't do the homework and you didn't keep up with the reading because those are usually the three that work
Hmm.
with that. So, was there a time that you just blew it off and didn't do a thing?
No.
Okay. So then what I hear you saying is that you're getting that grade and that grade is not working for you, but it is the grade that you're really working hard to get,
Hmm.
right? So you haven't blown anything off. It's just a really hard subject. Am I close?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a little piece of you that can say to yourself, "Okay, I'm not happy with that grade." High achievers in life tend to be hard on themselves. The great part about that is they're hard on themselves and they push themselves, which then gets them into successful situations, right? So they're
Hmm.
not laying on the couch. With that said, if we get to a point where we're pushing ourselves past what we're capable of, so I decide that I'm going to run a marathon this afternoon. Like, how ugly would that be? Like, we don't even want to think about how ugly that would be. And so then if I said to myself, well, then I'm a total failure at life because I couldn't run a marathon. I mean, I may say that to myself, but I don't know that's a fair statement, right? And so
Hmm.
being able to look at things logically is kind of how we take care of ourselves because the voices in our head sometimes don't tell us the truth. So, as far as the class goes, so you've got obviously finals left. Any more projects left to do in that class?
I only have an exam left.
Perfect. Okay. So, are you going to put off studying for the exam until like 2 hours before the exam?
No.
Oh, well, that's a good idea. Okay. So you're going to prepare for the exam. And by taking notes and by all the things that's happened in class, do you feel like you have everything you need to prep for the exam?
Yeah. And
O-
I'm going to job shadow the professor next week. So,
Okay. So what you're saying to me, and I need you to hear, is I'm really working at this, Tammy. Like I'm working super hard at this. I don't know of any way to make this work better. I'm all in for it. Can you give yourself a little bit of grace? You just talked about finding God. So that finding grace component is right up God's alley. I'm not smart enough to speak for him, but that's what the book says.
hmm.
So are you going to be able to give yourself a little bit of grace because if you can, have there ever been a time in your life, whether it's school related or any of the trust, abandonment, any of those other issues, where all you heard were the negative voices in your head?
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations, you're normal. Good job. So when you let those voices be the loudest part of your life, then you, even if you say to me, like, I know that that's not the truth, but a little bit of that junk
Mhm.
seeps in. And when that junk seeps in, it puts us in a place where we're not on top of things. We're down on our heels, right? We're not on our toes and ready to
Mhm.
go. We're back on our heels. And so what I'm asking of you is it going to be possible for you to say to yourself logically, okay, Tammy went through all of that. Yep, check. I have not messed up a day. I have not blown any of this off. I've got all of my stuff and I'm starting today
Mhm.
on working on that exam. I'm going to follow job shadow the professor a week before the exam because that's
Mhm.
chronology, right? Like that's
Yeah.
working. So, can you put yourself in a position of saying, "Okay, I don't have this, but I'm
Mhm.
really on the right track to have this," instead of I have a bad grade and I'm really not happy about it? Like, do you hear the difference?
Yeah.
Is that Does that make sense? Is that
Yes.
something you could
Yeah.
do? Yeah, I mean, I think when we're hard on ourselves, nothing works as well. Now, I'm not saying that we don't all suffer from that because we all do, but I do know that it's like expecting my car to run with no gas in it, right? Like
Mhm.
it's really not going to go very far.
Mhm.
It's the same thing with mental health. If we can, but we need to tell ourselves the truth. And so telling yourself the facts, I think, are easier than just blowing smoke and telling you, I mean, you're a fabulous person and I can tell you
Mhm.
that, but I think it'd be easier for you to look through the facts on it. Tell me where else you're hard on yourself. And maybe no place. Maybe you're
Trying to be everywhere at the same time. That is something I struggle with a lot.
okay. So I'm going
Yeah.
to rephrase that. It's trying to be everywhere at the same time is also trying to do everything at the same time.
Yes.
Fair?
Yes.
Okay. So have you figured out how to clone yourself?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Then being at two places at once is going to be a little difficult for you. Um, Tell me how you feel when you can't do all of the things. What's the inner dialogue?
What are you doing with your life? Why are you so stressed out? This is so simple. Come on. Like,
Okay, so super hard on yourself. So like the superwoman of hard on yourself, right?
yep.
You get the badge and everything. Um, okay, so let's turn this around. So I say to you, Audrey, I just can't do everything. I'm just a mess. I don't get anything done. What are you going to say to me?
What can I do to help?
Uh-huh. Okay. Are you going to tell me I'm also a mess because I can't do everything?
No.
You're going to say, darn straight, Tammy, you're a mess because you can't be 30 places at the same time. Are you going to say that to me?
no.
Okay, what are you going to say to me?
What can I do to help you?
And am I being hard on myself?
Yes.
Would you be able to see that I was being hard on myself?
Yes.
And would you be able to tell me that?
Yes.
Okay, well, I just turned that mirror around at you because that's exactly what I'm seeing as well. I love that you're an overachiever and I think you're fabulous, but I do think you're super hard on yourself. And with the same way that we came back to it manifesting itself with classes, perhaps just thinking here, maybe it manifests itself that way with you in other places in your life. I
Mhm.
think you're hard on yourself. And like I said, there's ways that that's great and there's ways that that's counterproductive. So, in the moments that you're thinking about using your words, I can't be everywhere, I'm a failure, that's awful. Maybe if you were thinking better thoughts about yourself, you'd be more motivated to do some of the things. Now,
Mhm.
my next question is, do you really need to do all of the things all of the time? Or is that a bar you've set for yourself?
It's a bar I've set for myself.
Okay. So, let's think about some homework for you. We always finish these sessions with some homework. So, homework for me is just some ways, logical ways
Mhm.
for you to be able to make things better. So, one of those is going to be when you are feeling the old feelings, the abandonment, the trust, the feeling like not good with yourself, then what I would ask for you to do is turn that around and refocus that on all that you have going for you. So let's make the list since you came in. So you're telling me that you have a really good small group of people that really care about you.
Mhm.
Do you know that if I polled the planet, I probably couldn't find a majority of humans that would say that? Fact.
Mhm.
So you're in a minority, in a really good minority there. And who cultivated those friends? Who's the consistent in all of those people? They're all friends with who?
Me.
Exactly. So I want you to think in those moments that you were able to do that. You were able to get past some of those really tough issues and be able to be this person today. And this person's amazing. And all of those people that you keep in your life know that.
Mhm.
The people that you said were your friends, can we relook at that and think maybe they weren't your friends? Maybe they were humans in your life
Mhm.
that you maybe they didn't leave you, maybe you left them
Yeah.
and you bypassed their path for yours. Can we look at those that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, then my last piece of homework for you is I want you to have a new phrase to go back on, and that is when you are in that moment where you are, I need to do the spreadsheet, and I need to be here, and I need to be there, and I have 400 things to do. Let's look at it from a priority standpoint. So, what am I going to say as a college student? What am I going to say first priority is?
Classes.
Correct. Now, that's not talking about personal. That's not
Mhm.
talking about your time with God. That's not talking about that. I'm just talking from a doing stuff.
Mhm.
You should have, I know that you enjoy prayer time. I think that that's what makes our world go around. So I'm not suggesting that that's not
Mhm.
important. But when it gets to actually going and doing, so we're going to concentrate on school first, and you got a handle on that.
Mhm.
Then, when all of those other things come into your world where it feels like you're pulled all the different ways, at that point, I want you to take an actual look at them and think about which ones really aren't that important so that you don't feel that stress. And when
Mhm.
you feel that stress, then I want that inner dialogue to be, look, I am killing it at the things that
Mhm.
I'm really doing well. And if it doesn't make my priority list, maybe it makes it later, because that's maybe a little softer way for you to take care of yourself. Here's my last one. My last one's a personal one for you. I want you to see you through my eyes because you're incredible with what you've shared, with what you've gone through, and the human that I'm looking at today is incredible. And so on those days, we all have them, when we feel a little less than, I would like for you to think about this conversation and me looking at you right now. I see an incredible young woman, and we know I never lie. Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope these things help. And I
Mhm.
hope that as you take them into your world, that you leave not only empowered, but feel better about you because you matter.
Mhm.
Fired up. So, the things that we talked about with Audrey today are things that we can all hear, right? Abandonment issues, trust issues, mental health issues. And so, being able to find the logic and find the truth in all of those things will help us get through all of those together and make our world fired up. Thank you so much.